And we're live.
And cool.
Welcome, everyone, to, well, guess what? It's
Welcome,
coffee
no one.
time. It's coffee time with crypto. I'm here. I'm Mr. BTCVC, and I'm here with my good friend, Degen Ben.
Yeah.
You
Such
got
a
your
fitting
coffee?
name.
And thank you for joining us for the very first pilot episode of Coffee Time with Crypto, where we're just going to have fun and keep it real and just talk about crypto and really try to shape the future of Web3 and, educate when we can.
Yep.
So I
And
thought
let's see.
we would start off by kind of just like introducing how each of us got into crypto, and um, we can we can talk a little bit about Bitcoin because that's why like I really wanted to have part of the show to talk about a specific project that one of us are interested in. But for this very first show, I think for especially with some of the crypto newbies out there, uh, maybe we can kind of share our thoughts on kind of like the blue chip of crypto.
Mm,
So yeah,
yeah.
this is it's our first time. Was the first time I'm live streaming, and hopefully we have our audio and video clear. I think
Yeah. That's the main purpose of this episode.
yeah, we have plenty of viewers right now.
Yeah. So many viewers. I don't know what the viewer count is, but
I think your audio is coming through okay.
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's something we had to fix. And
So what do you?
let's.
So how did you get into crypto?
Oh, for me. So I've always heard about crypto, like I heard about Bitcoin, right? How crazy it is and all that stuff, but I never really got into it. I always looked into like what people say about it. I didn't really actually look into it until you talked about it.
Me? Wait,
Yeah, until you
how?
talked about it, because I was like,
When was
oh,
this? What year was this?
ooh, was this? It was at your home. Uh,
Wait, this must be before the pandemic then.
maybe, maybe.
It has
No,
to
no,
be.
we
We
were
haven't had
at
many
your
people around.
backyard.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, okay.
We were at your backyard
So
because we were still
we did the
isolating, right?
social
Yeah.
distancing thing.
So I've always looked at the news and everything, but I didn't really know what it was. Like, what on earth is farming? What's decentralized finance? I didn't really know what it was until you talked about it. And then
Okay,
I
so this
started
was
doing
last
some
year, right?
digging.
This was
Yeah, it
last
was
year.
last year. Last year, because you already know, right? The only involvement I had with crypto or Bitcoin was this stock, HUT, right? That was the only thing I had.
So that's a crypto mining company.
Yeah, a crypto mining company that was listed on TSX, right?
That's actually a really good way to get into crypto, I think, because you
Well,
don't
the
really
thing is,
have to you don't
because
really have to deal with an exchange. You just buy it like a ETF.
yeah, because when I started, I just found out, whoa, it's so hard. You need a ledger, you need to deal with all this technology that you have no idea what's going on. And it's not straightforward. There's no one holding your hand saying, well, I had someone holding my hand, but if you didn't have someone holding your
You
hand,
mean
you're
the
like, where did my money go? Right? And it doesn't show up until like a minute or two later, but in your mind, it was like half an hour already, right? Because you're like, where's my money? Where's my money? um,
Yeah,
and
and
then
it
it
costs
was,
so
it,
much too. Well, it used
yeah.
to cost a lot to kind of get money
Oh, it
into
used to
crypto.
cost a lot too.
Yeah, so I mean, I got into crypto in 2017, and
Yeah.
before that, I had already kind of heard about Bitcoin, but the market cap was pretty low. I've always been a
Mm.
macro investor, and I own gold, and uh, Bitcoin was said to be digital gold, so I was
Yeah.
always looking into it. Uh, but the whole thesis was basically the market cap was so small that to me it was almost irrelevant at the time. So I remember watching Bitcoin get to $1,800, and that was kind of like the same price as gold back then. And guess what? Like gold is still $1,800, and and Bitcoin is now like $44,000. I haven't
Yeah.
really had a chance to follow the market
And
today.
we're in a pullback. We're like,
Oh yeah, just going back to standard disclosures. This is not financial advice,
oh,
and
definitely
this
not.
is education and entertainment. Um,
Like, would
in
you take
fact,
financial advice from someone called Degen Ben? No, right?
I mean, so the concept here really is um, Ben here is a bit of a degen, and
Yep.
I'm a little bit I'm much more conservative. So hopefully we'll bring a bit of a balance.
Well, I don't think you're considered conservative. Because the thing is, if you're conservative, you probably wouldn't even go into DeFi.
Conservative into within the crypto space.
You're within the crypto space, probably, yes.
So a lot of people don't understand why Bitcoin is considered a safe haven among people in the crypto space. Because
Hmm.
in the traditional space, Bitcoin is the riskiest of risk assets.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that more in a bit. But kind of going back to how I got into
Hmm.
crypto, uh, once I saw uh, basically Bitcoin kind of eclipse gold, I thought, okay, I need to start dollar cost averaging and getting some exposure into Bitcoin, and then I kind of got lucky. I started buying into it, and it just kept on going up and up and up, and then we got into the whole 2017 2018 bull market,
Mm.
and back then, really, it was just Bitcoin and Ethereum. I had to open a Coinbase account, and um, you connect your credit card. Your credit card had like a 4% fee, and then I think Coinbase had really high spreads as well. So by the time you bought anything, I think you had lost 10-15% of your money.
Ouch.
But it was fine because as soon as the next day Bitcoin would go up 10-15%. So all of this was quite normal back then, and I don't think a lot of people going into the space now kind of realize how crazy it was at the time. I mean, it's still
Mm.
pretty crazy now, but definitely not the same. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I got into it. I had I had a friend who kind of like at the time a lot of my friends were getting into it as well, but I had a
Oh,
friend who
nice.
uh, kind of saw what I was doing, and there was one particular coin, in particular, and I believe it was Neo, and it was
Okay.
touted as the Ethereum of China at the time. So we were really
Okay.
into that, but that project didn't go too well, and it, it ended up not being the Ethereum of China, and actually Ethereum became the Ethereum of China before, uh,
Oh, before they
they
shut it down.
before they banned crypto, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
I've been through that kind of bull market and the big bear market, and I saw everything go up. Um, I don't know, like 20-30 times
mm.
before it like kind of crashed back 99%. So it wasn't until 20 2020, the middle of, yeah, just after the pandemic. I think at the once the pandemic hit, we had another bear market in crypto, just like kind of like a mini one. We were recovering, and then um, it fell to new lows, but it started recovering. And at the start of 2021, that's when this new bull market hit, and I was just looking at the small amount of Bitcoin that I had at the time, and it was it became not small anymore. And then I realized I was looking at it on a daily basis, and started to
Nice.
want to get back into it.
Nice. Definitely not the route I'm going through right now, but cool.
So yeah, like I remember back in 2017, um, it was Bitcoin, and then it was the smart contract platforms. I don't know how much you
Mm.
know about different things because you kind of just jumped into the deep end.
Oh,
I
I'm
remember.
like I'm like super relatable. If anybody watches this, I'm super relatable to the amateur out there. Like the only advantage or only progress I've made from just an amateur is that, oh, I know how to use my wallet.
So okay, so run me through this. You wanted to get into crypto, and then you just jumped right into DeFi, and you skipped Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Oh, I
Or
skipped that.
so how, kind of walk me through that thought process.
Oh, that the process is easy. I'm a degen. If
By
I came
nature.
in, but I think by nature. And then now that I look back at it, yeah, I am a degen. Because well, the thing is, when I was anything in crypto right now, I'm only playing with my with I haven't actually put in all the capital I want to put in yet. But basically, all I'm doing is playing with the profits from HUT, that stock. That's all I'm going to play with. But right now, I've only deployed like a third of it because after not long of deploying a little bit, and suddenly we have this crypto winter that's going on right now. And I'm like, whoa,
Do you
you
think
know
do
what?
you think we're
I
having a
probably
crypto
need
winter?
to hold off for a bit.
So do you think we're really having a crypto winter, or this is kind of like just a typical bump in the road? Because I remember um, 20-30% drops happening on a regular basis, but kind of these days when you have that kind of pullback, everyone kind of freaks out. So maybe
And I think I know why. And I think I know why. Because most of us are new. We didn't go through the like like very common 20% pullbacks or whatever, right? We never gone through that. A lot of us are new. So we go in, and a lot of us come from the equities market where you don't get 20% pullbacks on blue chips or whatever, right? So all of us newbies coming in, probably most of us bought at all-time highs and everything because that's when we caught on to this, right? And suddenly it pulls back. And then you have stuff like Wonderland, which basically is like down 90% and now being invested by SEC.
so.
Uh,
What's Wonderland?
oh, it's a Olympus Dow fork, but apparently the amount of money that got into it like overcame it, and it became one of the biggest Dow forks.
Yeah.
By it was made by this guy. This
So
I don't want
Danielle,
to
I think
say he
so.
looks.
So this is
Sorry.
I think this is a token which promises. Well, at one point I remember seeing it promised 80% APY,
Eighty
and
thousand, 80,000%.
yeah, we were looking at. At your place. We were looking at it, and they had this calculator on their website which
Yeah.
tells you, if you bought it today and you held it for, 30 days, then it will tell you your return in Lambos. That's all I remember.
Oh no, no, we didn't do 30 days because we were looking at an initial investment of $1,000 only. So we put 365. Just hold it for a
Oh yeah,
year.
if you held it for a year, you get like 4 Lambos.
Yeah, you have four Lambos, and I was like, what? Because coming from the equities market or even coming from banking, n- no initial investment of $1,000 can ever claim that you'll own a few Lambos, like
so
no
so is
matter
that
how
is that is
outrageous
that
or
real?
scammy it
What happened? What happened with that?
to
So
Wonderland.
so obviously, like, to most of us coming from the traditional space, when you see
Yeah.
something like that, it's not sustainable. But like,
Uh,
is it a scam? Is it a Ponzi?
well, the thing is, in order to identify that it's non-sustainable, you have to be the type of person that digs into exactly what it is, right? But the problem is, most of us only dig through. I don't even know if we can dig through halfway, because most of us will probably go into their Discord, start talking to the people there, and since everyone that's on there are it's two polars. It's either someone in there trying to like spread fear and then they get banned right away, or it's someone that's totally supporting the project. And because everybody that tries to spread fear gets banned, everybody on the Discord is trying to support each other, saying that, oh, you better get in now until if you get in like later, then you're gonna regret. You're gonna lose like two Lambos instead of having five Lambos. Uh, so it was like that. So if we actually digged in, like even if you read the white papers and everything that I went to read, it didn't sound too bad. But then I don't think a lot of us even reads through it. Like you probably don't read through it at all. You probably just go on Discord, go on Twitter, look at the
Yeah.
owner's Twitter, look at what other people are trying to say, and we probably just follow.
So there are tons of projects like Wonderland and many forks of Olympus and other kind of popular protocols that manage to accumulate lots and lots of TVL over a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's really for me. I found out a lot about a lot of these projects very early on, and it took a long time for me to even kind of try them out. Uh,
Oh, for sure.
and and honestly, it was only after trying it out that I learned where the problems are. So
Yeah.
with Wonderland, the result was basically that they had a huge crash, and
Yeah.
a lot of people lost a lot of money. And I think
Ooh.
one of the one of the co-founders were, you know, doxxed to
Yeah,
be a
an
known
ex-con man.
scammer. Yeah, and now the project is trying to kind of recover. So I'm no longer following Wonderland that closely anymore, but I
Hmm.
know you kind of are. So
I'm not. I'm no longer looking at their Discord because I found that like when you join this type of stuff, you look into the Discord. It's not that useful for like your initial when you do your own research. It's really not that useful. Um, but since everything already to me like Wonderland, I don't think it can come back. I
So this is
really
the
don't.
Wonderland has a token. It's the time token. So
Time.
what
Well,
would you say that Wonderland is on like one end of the spectrum, the degen spectrum, and then you have Bitcoin, which is on the kind of
Well,
polar
actually,
opposite end.
I wouldn't say Wonderland's on the other
So
side of the spectrum because at least Wonderland, because you made a really good point when we were looking at it, right? At least the owner is known,
yeah, so it's,
right?
why is that important?
Because then if the project is doing what it's doing right now, it's going down the hole, then that person's reputation is on the line. And he and this dude called Danielle or Daniel, he's got so many crypto projects
But
that
doesn't it tell you like with Wonderland that just just because of that doesn't really help you because a lot of people still lost a lot of money.
well, people lost money because right now, I would say, I think it's just like whenever you make an investment, you need a few things to convince you. You want to feel confident in something, and I think being the having the owner being known kind of makes it easier. And Wonderland was a cult, honestly. It's this really huge cult because everybody believed in this Daniel guy. Well, until now. Um, so I think it was different. It was a bit different.
They had this thing called 3-3, and it was
Yeah.
basically this game theory where if nobody sold, if you just put money back into the protocol, then
Yeah.
everyone just keeps on making money. But I think, in reality, it just means that the people who got in early would
Hmm.
have a chance to get their money out, and then a lot of people were still stuck holding the bag. Um,
Oh, for sure. Like if anybody goes on to the Wonderland Discord right now, it's just everybody asking for reimbursement, which come on, man, it's not gonna happen.
it's like it's it's like one of those when marketing.
Yeah. Like when airdrop, that was one of the biggest thing. Like when airdrop, what now that the airdrop actually happened, everybody's like, when reimbursement?
So
But yeah,
so is part of the reason why like you you haven't gotten into Bitcoin much because you just think it's not quite as exciting as some of these other projects?
uh, actually, so when I got in, I was like, okay, buy and hold Bitcoin. But that doesn't help me. Like, sorry, that doesn't, it's not that it doesn't help me. I don't really learn anything from just buying and holding Bitcoin. It's probably the safer play. It's probably the coin. It's probably just as you said, it's probably just holding like the Google stock or whatever.
But what do you know about Bitcoin? Like it's interesting how we talk so much about crypto, but we probably never really talked about
Yeah.
Bitcoin too
Well, the thing
much.
is, just like most of the people out there, I haven't even looked into the intricacies of Bitcoin, right? But when I was talking to you about crypto and everything, and then I started doing like some research on like what on earth it is, I was more interested in the whole decentralized finance farming part. I was more interested in like, oh, so you can actually borrow and people actually give you a percentage. Like it was at one time I think it was a Curve where they had this protocol that basically paid you to borrow money.
So there was this thing called Avalanche Rush. So Avalanche is an L1 blockchain, and
Hmm.
uh, they they had this program where they would just give some AVAX tokens to some of their top protocols, and they would hand them out as uh, additional staking rewards if you kind of deposited with Aave or Trader Joe,
Hmm.
and you would find that you can you can borrow the same token and deposit with the same protocol, and you can kind of like this do this
Like do the
loop.
whole
Yeah,
loop,
you can do like
infinite
a
loop until like you maximize, right?
yeah, and then you would easily get like 20 to 30% APY by doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
So
I don't they don't really have the same things anymore. We might get
yeah,
another rush coming, hopefully, but haven't seen it yet. But
yeah. So
is
like
that what you were talking about?
yeah. So like back to like what I saw, what I wanted to sort of get my hands into, it was all this stuff. Like,
Hmm.
oh, like all the this like I call it the sexy stuff. It's like, oh, you can do this and borrow and leverage and do that. Not like I was gonna do it, but I wanted to read more about because to me that was more interesting, right? Than just buying and holding
But
Bitcoin,
what
right?
about it? What about it makes it more interesting? Is it just the the returns, or did
Well,
you? I mean, it
well,
comes
being a
with a
degen,
bunch of risk.
yes. Number one, it was the returns. And number two is because I'm not someone that can just read about something. I get bored of it if I just read. So for me, I had to go do it.
So
I'm someone that
if
was,
you look at the Bitcoin chart and you see that it's like goes up uh, pretty much in
mhm,
a straight, every once in a while you get these bear
yeah,
markets, but at least prior to 2021, we had this 4 year cycle thing, and the returns are kind of already pretty extraordinary. So
yeah.
you can probably get more from just buying and hold Bitcoin than these kind of DeFi.
There's something about DeFi. I think it's also what appealed to some other people where they really want to get away from like this centralized system where they feel like it's all rigged and they're being taken advantage of and everything.
Yeah.
Not that I actually share that view. I mean, sort of,
So
but for me it
there's
was just like, oh, like this whole DeFi thing is it's actually a really unique thing for the average person like me, right? So,
there's
because
definitely a cool factor, right? Like I remember uh, even just the first time sending crypto and or receiving crypto from a friend, and just clicking send and it showing up immediately, even just as like a test. that was like the coolest thing ever. And the second
Yeah.
time I felt something new, like when you're a kid and you have um, for the first time you used Wi-Fi, it's that kind of feeling, right?
Yeah.
So when
So
you
it's this surreal feeling because like as you grow older, you know more about the world and the world becomes less entertaining, right? Because you know how things work. But DeFi, because it's just naturally complicated, there's a layer of mystery on it that you kind of have to dig very deep in order to know what on earth is happening and what you're actually doing. I think that's the appeal, right? It's kind of surreal.
well, I remember the first time using DeFi, uh, you would you would deposit and you would get your yield or your interest in real
Hmm.
time, and it's kind of like having one of those uh, digital money meters that constantly accumulate,
Like it's
and you
kind of like watching your own plant grow, but you can actually see it, right? Like you don't
that's
go to
right.
sleep and then the next day, oh, a shoot's coming out. Like it's not something like that. You do it and suddenly the numbers keep
It's
increasing,
just
right?
faster. It's just faster than that.
Yeah, it's like instant reward, right? It's not like something you have to like hold for a year to get 3%, right?
So I think like when the first time kind of used DeFi, I was playing around with really small amounts of money. So I never really thought about the risks of using these protocols. So
Yeah,
like, are you like, have you ever thought about the
using
the
more money.
risks of DeFi?
Well, the thing is, since going into this, I knew this all this stuff was crazy risky, right? Because then while I was going in, the Squid Game token happened and all that stuff. So at the back of my mind, I was like, okay, so the cliche of only playing around with high risk stuff with money you can afford to lose, that totally made sense to me. So even till now, the amount of capital I really put in there, I'm fine with losing the whole amount of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a universal theme in crypto where you you're supposed to be playing with. So first of all, it's a game because everyone says you're just playing with money
Yeah,
that you can afford to lose. Uh,
yeah.
but really, part of the reason why um, I wanted to start this channel was because I see, like, I have my own vision of what the future of Web3 could be, and it's something
Hmm.
that's really exciting. But yet, um, I'm not sure if we're really progressing um, there. Well, I know a lot of people are building some very interesting projects, but definitely the
Yeah.
people who are real DeFi users today. Um, I mean, DeFi is only part of that Web3 picture, um, but
The thing is, I actually see like whatever you're envisioning and you think it's going to be really exciting, I think it's being stalled right now.
why do you say
Like
that?
it's probably going to take an exponential amount of time before we get to like the end point of what you're thinking because the whole the whole scamming thing is so prevalent right now.
Yeah.
And people are going into it thinking you'll make a quick million.
So I
Quick
mean,
as
this
in all
this
these protocols that promise you like if you hold for a year, you'll be a millionaire. Like there's so much of this stuff that I think it took the attention off trying to actually build DeFi into something bigger. Uh,
so that kind of reminds me of back in 2017 when there were a lot of talks about Bitcoin forking and how
mm,
um, like you can have Bitcoin, but then you have a bunch of forks. Back then they would be called, those were the altcoins,
yeah,
and so you yeah, Bitcoin was limited, but then you can have an unlimited number of other coins. So so a lot of them became meme coins and dog coins. So
Yeah.
a lot of these seem like they need to be um, kind of flushed out before we can actually move on with kind of like the future of Web3. And in
Mm.
the same way, it reminds me of what you just said with some of these scam projects, because that's kind of what I will remember 2021 being. You have a lot of uh, experimental protocols that are that are launched on the smart contract platforms, on the L1s,
Yeah.
and a lot of them promised really high APY, like Wonderland that we talked about. So
Yeah.
it's really just about people dipping their toes in, experiencing it with play money, and a
Yeah.
lot of these projects are gonna fade out. But I think that's kind of like a natural, like it's a natural process for these projects to have to kind of go away before we know which protocols are the ones that
Yeah.
will kind of take us to the next step.
Yeah, I for sure. But it's just that there's so many of them right now. There's so much noise that it's going to take a long time before they get flushed. Because I think the amount of new scammy protocols or projects that's being put up is way faster than the amount that's being flushed out.
Yeah, so I mean, it all comes back down to Bitcoin, right? The whole part of this problem
Mm.
that we're talking about is why the Bitcoin maximalist exists. They think that if you don't have like a really strong foundation, then you tend to have those things. Like a lot of the scam coins are really just versions of centralized protocols where one or two people can control the fate of that project. And that's
Hmm.
in stark contrast to Bitcoin, where, you know, first of all, it's had the longest history among, it's the
Yeah.
first cryptocurrency. So, but it's sufficiently decentralized that not a single party can kind of shut it down. Um, and a lot of the DeFi stuff is being built around Bitcoin. I wouldn't say
Hmm.
like on Bitcoin, uh, but Bitcoin has side chains, and we talk about like I've shared with you a project called Sovereign before,
Yeah.
um, and that's a protocol that's built on a Bitcoin sidechain called Rootstock. It's a project that
Mm.
I'm like personally very interested in, uh, and kind of like the vision there is Ethereum and the other L1s. It's more like a testing ground for projects that are being built, around Bitcoin, and and Bitcoin is kind of used as a security layer, um,
Yeah.
and then you have the layer, kind of like the side chain where all the smart contracts are being performed kind of on top of that. So that's kind of um, it's kind of similar to how Ethereum works, where Ethereum has kind of like a strong security layer, and then but it can't scale, right? We need
Hmm.
all these layer twos like Polygon, Arbitrum,
Yeah.
Optimism. I don't know how much you know about those kind of scaling
Not
solutions.
much. Not much.
But yeah, so basically, I think a lot of exciting things are happening on Bitcoin as well. That
Hmm.
um, perhaps someone like you should kind of give it a little bit more attention than it deserves. Well, then
Hmm.
then then you're giving it at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing enough marketing for those projects that focus on Bitcoin because yeah, like the marketing on all the other chains seem to be uh a lot better.
Yeah, like it comes down to it being more decentralized, I think, because there's
Mm.
no you have
There's no one person
there's
that's
no
saying, "Hey, we need to do this."
and it's a bit unfair, I think, when you think about the Bitcoin itself as a brand. Yeah, I
Hmm.
totally agree that with the side chains there are issues there because um, I think that if if there truly was Bitcoin DeFi where you had all the capabilities of smart contracts and all of the security that Bitcoin can give you, then I think that it would be an easy sell. But
Mm.
right now we're not quite there yet with these other kind of Bitcoin projects. So
Yeah.
I do think Bitcoin itself has the strongest brand awareness and all that. Like probably most people in in the crypto space own a bit of Bitcoin, and um, even if you don't own any Bitcoin by now, you probably have heard of it. So
Yeah.
I think the potential market for Bitcoin DeFi is still huge. It's just
Yeah.
that there are because the thing is Bitcoin itself was never designed to have smart contract
Mm.
functionality. So every single like um, whenever you want to add that kind of functionality, the only way you can do it is to go off chain, and then there has to be some trade off between um, security and I'd say functionality or convenience, that kind of thing. Uh, so maybe one of these days we'll dive deeper into like Bitcoin DeFi.
I think we should
Um,
at least give it the marketing it deserves,
yeah,
although we don't know how many audiences we're going to get.
but for me, I think like the reason why uh, I I think it's a good idea to hold some Bitcoin is, well, it depends on whether you know whether you hold a store of value in the first place.
Hmm.
If you don't believe in the concept of a store of value, then it's probably you know then if you were to get involved in Bitcoin, it's probably because you're interested in it as a risk asset. Because to me,
Mm.
the way I see it is, you have Bitcoin, which is a digital asset. It's
Yeah.
the problem that Bitcoin actually solved was it allowed digital property rights. It's the first time that you can send money was like will send money across the internet, but really
Yeah.
you have it's property, and you have uh, digital ownership of that property.
Yeah.
And prior to Bitcoin, it was not really possible to have. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's just like property like anything else. So I remember the first time explaining to my wife about this Bitcoin thing. I was telling her, you know, it's almost like, if you had air miles, you're just trusted. Like if you got air miles and you can exchange air miles for something of value, um, and the Air Miles company was, you know, and there was zero chance that the Air Miles company could default on, that promise to honor those air
Mm.
miles, then, those air miles would be, worth something. I mean, they're worth something all by itself, but then
Hmm.
the reason why they're not, U.S. dollars or gold or Bitcoin is because there is that risk that the company backing it, would go bust
Uh-huh.
and would not honor it. And
Yeah.
with Bitcoin, you don't have, that counterparty, so it's more like gold in that sense. So
Hmm.
so kind of the way I see it is, um, all property, it has some kind of credit risk in there, and
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin doesn't have that credit risk, and it is very similar to gold in that respect. But because it's kind of like this developing store of value, it has a lot of speculative risk premium on top of it.
Yeah.
It's and so like if you noticed in the past month or so, uh, the price movements is very correlated to the Nasdaq. But at one,
Mm.
as soon as um, it's fully corrected and it's no longer so correlated with the Nasdaq, then it will it trades more like the store value that I think in the long term it will be. So that's kind of my thesis for holding Bitcoin as like a gold alternative. So I would
Mm.
say um, I can I can see in 10 years time that this if we look at Bitcoin as an experiment, that experiment's probably going to be over because it's been 12 years, 12 or 13 years since Bitcoin first started. And
Yeah.
I think where it is now compared to, and where it will be in the future, it's probably more than halfway established. It's unlikely enough for Bitcoin to have gotten to where it is today. And I think that whatever experiment we are in in less than 10 years, we would have seen that experiment kind of fully unfolding. And um, it's either Bitcoin has no value at the end of that experiment, or
Yeah.
it will be treated like the digital gold that it has. And so it's easy to look at the market cap of gold and say, you know, how how much does Bitcoin have to grow in order to kind of be comparable to that? And I know a lot of people, they look at Bitcoin and they want to see it as more of a currency that will absorb, uh, not only gold but perhaps even the U.S. dollar and replace that as a global
Mm.
reserve currency. And I just think that it could happen, but it's very to me it's less likely. And my thesis for holding it is like I don't need that. I just have to look at it in terms of the macro landscape. And if I'm holding gold as a form of insurance and it's a store of value, then part of it I want to hedge that exposure by holding some Bitcoin as part of it. So that's
Mm.
really how I got into that. No, how I got into Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, you can see definitely not the reason most people get into crypto in the first place. um, I think a lot of people are just treating it as a game.
Yeah, I think that's generally the
Yeah, like
consensus.
it's really hard for people of the previous generation to have the same thought of Bitcoin that as to gold, as to like any type of real physical tangible asset or even like real money or anything like that. Because what I found is when something's not tangible, the previous generation does not believe in it being real. Um, so I think that's why like most people that think the way you think and they haven't gotten into crypto or haven't even looked into it will refrain from even looking at it basically as a reserve or as a hold of value because to them there's just so much bad news around it
Yeah, I mean
that
it's like gold has had a 2,000 year history. Uh, you look at the price movement of Bitcoin and gold; they don't seem like they are, correlated in that sense. So
mm-hmm,
I can see it being difficult for that especially an older generation of gold bugs to really adopt. And as we talk about this, I'm thinking about like people like Peter Schiff out there who uh, he makes a lot of money like always debating Bitcoiners, uh,
Yeah.
but he's definitely someone you should follow if you uh, kind of want to if you're interested in gold and you also want to
Mhm.
see kind of like a gold bug's take on Bitcoin.
I'll check it out. Definitely check it out. So, interesting. Yeah, that's just my point of view because how you got into it and the reasons you got into it is definitely not why people are getting into it. For me, at least from what I see these days.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Uh,
heard people like these days they're almost skipping Bitcoin, and then they're buying Ethereum and other altcoins. Uh, I mean, a
yeah,
lot of
and I
these.
think it's because just there's just I don't know if they market themselves, but they are just marketed better.
It's also easier to buy, right? Because when if you're buying Ethereum, then it's a lot of people can bridge that Ethereum token, and because it's so expensive to make any
Yeah.
kind of transaction on Ethereum, one of the first things you will look to do is actually to bridge away from Ethereum. And once you're on one of these layer twos, it's so cheap and so easy to kind of swap between chains these days that um, it is just a lot easier to um, find out and gain exposure to a lot of these other altcoins.
Oh, yeah, like once you get into the rabbit hole
Mm.
and you start learning about this and that, and then you start looking into these discords and you learn, like, it only takes one or two people within the Discord channel at the right time when you're staring at it to tell you, hey, I'm looking into this. What do you guys think? And then the amateur would just go to at least take a look. Um, and you look at their site and everything, and once you get used to like the sites and how they look, you're just like, oh, this one sounds more intriguing than the previous one I was looking at. And then they switch and switch and switch and switch, and then I think somehow they get rugged.
So do you think that Bitcoin is seen as kind of like that safe asset among the degens, or uh,
Well, the thing is, the
is it
degens
just
won't.
completely off their radar?
So, okay, so the impression I get as a self-claimed degen is that Bitcoin is just like an an indicator. It's not something we buy. It's something we look at to see as a leading indicator of what's going to happen to all these other sexy stuff that we're holding or trying to get into.
So are you saying like all these other coins are basically leveraged plays on Bitcoin? Because there are ways to leverage your Bitcoin,
I don't
and
know if it's a leverage play, but I from what I'm guessing is people are using the price of Bitcoin as an indicator,
I
like
kind of get
purely
what you're
as an
saying.
indicator. Like they don't even think that buying Bitcoin is something. Like of course they know, but they wouldn't consider it because they don't see it 1,000xing their investment. Like they want to find the next Bitcoin at like the $2 mark.
So I think it's part of the play money mentality again, because if you're only using play money, then Bitcoin no longer offers you the you know
Yeah,
10x 20x returns that you might see in some of these other sexy projects.
yeah,
And so it's almost like um, there's no point. You like I think you mentioned that you understand that Bitcoin is kind of like this much safer play within the space. But
yeah,
if you're gonna use play money and treat it
yeah.
as more of like a casino, then it's kind of inefficient use of capital to put it in Bitcoin.
Probably, but like the people that are like me that are only using play money, yes, right? And the whole price point puts people off, right? Like it's $40,000, and in the back of most of the people's mind is that how many Bitcoin can I buy anyways? Like so sure it goes up to like 100K, and I'm not holding a Bitcoin. I don't have enough money, play money that I'm holding a Bitcoin. So what's
Wait,
the point?
you can buy like a sat, right?
Yeah, you can. Like you can buy a fraction of it, but to the owner, to the investor, it's like, what? I only own 0.000 what of this coin? It just to them it puts them off, I feel like.
And I mean, this must be why these dog coins, when you buy like $1 of it, you become a millionaire
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
coin.
Cause it's the psychology. It's the total other way around, where it's the coin value that's 0.000 whatever, and it's not the amount you're owning that's 0.000. Like like the amount, the price is a fraction. What you own is like millions and trillions of shares, right? It's the other way around.
So I genuinely believe that one day we will be referring to Bitcoin in terms of the number of sats rather than you know
Mm.
in Bitcoins. And I think at that point, uh, you can say you own like 100,000 sats.
And you know what? I think they should market it that way better.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good point. So
Yeah, yeah,
hopefully with these kind of chats, one day we'll have people asking us questions, and I see
yeah.
that there's
And
one viewer that's either we
it's
have one
either our
viewer.
wives
It's
or our friends.
hang on, is there a way we can see like
Oh,
can this
you
viewer
should
like
be able
message
to,
us?
no?
I should. I've told one friend. I've told one friend, and I told him we were starting at 9, but we obviously were running late today.
Yeah, I think he just put it on and went to take a shower or something.
Uh, no, my wife um, mentioned that on WhatsApp to me that I'm not live. There's no stream. This was at 9:30. But yeah, hopefully we will have more of um, question time, and we don't have to just talk amongst ourselves
And
the entire
I feel
hour.
like because you have so much more to give and talk about, and I have actually so many questions to ask, but I just feel like when there's just no audience, maybe we should save it for later.
No, well, I mean, we will um, we will try to get these videos edited and post them on our channel. Hopefully, um, hopefully people will see some value in it. But
Yeah.
mainly, like going back to the reason why I decided, I asked you to join me to do this was because I was really interested in building up a community of people who shared, similar views on the future of Web3, and, perhaps even help shape that future,
Hmm.
uh, as well as, bringing you here to balance out, um, how serious I can be
Well,
sometimes with these topics. Um,
well, for me, it's more like an education because I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out how to like go about. So to me, it's more it's just a learning experience at least. And if we ever get questions and everything, then I get to learn more.
yeah, so definitely if you somehow manage to stumble across our channel and you made it this far, then you definitely should get in touch with us, and we'll try to start some kind of uh, Telegram channel or something. I don't. something where we can engage with at least the very early people who find us, so we can kind of find
Yeah.
out what people want to talk about, and um, just build up this community. I think it will be fun.
It'll be very fun.
All right, I think it's good to wrap things up for tonight, and
All